Srinath, could we look at one of his games, which is your favorite? A favorite game
There
of
have
his?
been a lot of brilliant games from Arjun, especially in recent times. But I think one of the games that stood out is his game against Dominguez, the game that took him about 2700
Hmm.
from the last round of the Olympiad. And Arjun was also pretty pleased with that game because I remember he came out and he was like, I was very happy with this game because normally after the game, I would talk to my opponent and tell them where they could have played better. But this game, I just couldn't find a talking point. I just didn't know where he could have played better. It was such a clean game.
Amazing. Let's have a look at it. This is Arjun versus Dominguez from the Olympiad last round, and this helped India actually hold USA 2-2. And it proved to be an important result because it helped team finish fourth. And also, thanks to it, we could win the Gaprindashvili Cup because maybe then otherwise USA might have won it. So it was a very important game. So Arjun,
Absolutely, and a very important game also from Arjun's personal front because I think that certainly helped him win the medal.
right. And Arjun has been favoring this F3 Nimzo, yeah, likes it.
Yeah, this was the last round, and I think it was a bit of a surprise that Doming was played for us because we were expecting 1, 2, 3, 4, which means Fabiano, Aronian, Wesley So, and uh, Domingo is on the fourth board. Instead, they dropped Aronian and played Sam instead. So, Vedit played against Wesley instead of Aronian. Arjun played against Dominguez instead of Wesley, and Sam played against SL instead of Dominguez.
Right.
So I remember we were preparing against Wesley so till 10 to 12, and then at 12 o'clock the board pairings came 12-10, and all the plans kind of started changing a bit. Since it was a 10 a.m. round, I remember we looked at the we looked at what Dominguez was playing, and there were certain openings where we felt he was he hadn't had a lot of games, and this was one of the games where I told him basically not to prepare a whole lot, just go for this and go and sleep, and not check more than 1 or 1.5 hours. So he pretty much played this practically. And after f3, d5, a3, he played bishop e7, which was not expected, and which is something Dominguez hadn't played before, if I remember right, or at least not in recent times. So from here on, Arjun was kind of in his general preparation.
Right. So this was all pretty standard stuff, and I think till a point it all seemed normal.
I think a6 is already not the most common move in this setup.
Right, right. Rook e8 is played a lot more often, but
Yeah. So this is I think one of the most solid options for black against this f3 Nimzo, and there are many ways to equalize against the opening. This is one of them, and within this, I do remember Rook e8 was the main move for a pretty long time. But a6, bishop d6, h6, delaying the development of the c8 bishop. I think from here on, at some point, they were pretty much on their own and just playing chess over the board.
Right. So rook e8, bishop d3, knight
So with h3 and bishop d3, white just takes away the squares from the black's light square bishop. f5 is out, g4 is out. So usually the black bishop, the light square bishop usually develops to f5 or g4, and this solves black a lot of space problem because once you get that bishop out, the b8 knight develops to d7 and then potentially e5. but you have space for your pieces. And this e4 control of the e4 square also makes it easier for the black knight on f6. With h3 and bishop d3, standard moves, but Arjun just takes these squares away from black.
Right, knight bd7, a4. And I was talking to Arjun after, like, I interviewed him, and he said that even though the engines show as maybe equal, he liked his position a lot.
Yes, I think this is one of the very important and interesting components of modern chess in today's times. The engine brings almost any position to 0.00. I mean, a lot of positions the engine evaluates it at 0.00, but not all zeros are
Same.
equally equal. And a lot of these questions, it's just not easy from a human perspective to understand how exactly it equalizes.
Right.
For example, instead of knight bd7, I think b5 is a move that the engine was suggesting, but not exactly clear if why this is the best move and how, and not the kind of move that you would instantly think of when you're playing over the board without stockfish. And same thing, knight bd7, a4, and white just has a lot of space. It's not so easy for black to know where to put his pieces. So although it is objectively probably equal and the computer finds and shows the way, if you don't know it, it's not so easy to figure it out all by yourself over the board.
Even if you are a 2750 plus player.
Yeah, I think the difference between the best, even if you're at 2850, the difference between the best human and the average engine that you use with cloud at your home, the difference is massive. The difference is incredibly massive, which also brings a lot of human understanding component to how you use engines, because again, with everything at zero, you can find a lot of interesting things which the computer shows as zero, but it doesn't understand the difficulty level in a human finding those things.
Correct. So maybe that's something to work on, yeah. Some kind of at how tough is this equality? Maybe there can be some kind of a coefficient for that. Bishop c7, rook e1 was played. Took queen d6.
And already around this point, the position has probably become better for white, I think, yeah, objectively. As far as I remember, this was the case. So black had to play some precise moves between move 12 to 16, and when he missed that, I think it already got better for white.
Yeah.
He has this nice pawn on d5, the protected passed pawn, and black was having a bit of trouble finding space for his pieces.
So knight went to e2, queen e7, and now Arjun just exchanged off this bishop. Takes.
Yeah, he trades the bishop, which was, I think, the piece which was having the best control in black's camp. The knight on f8 and knight on f6, they don't really have any squares, if you can see. And this bishop on c8 is very well controlled by all the white's pieces placed in the light squares. You have these pawns on a4, b3, c4, d5, and a light square bishop as well. So the only square that this bishop on c8 can go to right now is the d7 square.
Right.
And apart from that, it doesn't have anything. So in essence, this bishop on d6 was the only piece which was controlling a lot of squares in black's camp. And Arjun just takes it out.
Absolutely. So take, bishop d7 and a5. Very nice move. Fixing the structure.
Yeah, a very nice move, a typical move. And again, already white has this 4 pawns on the queen side majority. At some point, if he manages to break b4, he's going to have this c pawn also rolling. With a5, he immobilizes the b7 pawn. It's not going to go towards b5 at any point in the near future. And I think white is just strategically clearly better by this point already.
Rook e8, And here, I mean, the engines were screaming, take the rook, sort of, but Arjun avoided the trade. I think he wanted to keep the pieces on.
Yeah, I think initially it was not entirely clear, maybe how incredibly good the end game is. But Arjun just figured it out in the due course of time. And also, this position after Rook D1, it looks really nice for white. You can get that Rook back to even at any point, and Black probably has to trade. Otherwise, you let the Rook inside the E file, E7. And till that time, you can bring the King to F2 and try and achieve this exchange under better circumstances. So I thought practically this was a very natural move to play.
Hmm. Bishop c8, knight e2, knight d7, knight c3.
Knight was going towards the c5 pawn. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think Arjun plays very well with his knights overall? Like, I mean, it might be a bit too much of a generalization, but just like how Anand likes his knights, also Arjun sort of maneuvers his knights very well.
Yeah, I think he just plays excellent. He just understands the harmony of pieces very well. You saw that with his knight e2 bishop f4 move. This knight initially came from c3, but he just sensed that this bishop on d6 is black's best piece. These things happen, I think, kind of instinctively for Arjun. For others, it potentially takes a bit of time. I mean, when I say others, like an average grandmaster, the elite, other elite players, it takes a bit of time to understand and make sense of these things. But for Arjun, it came instinctively again from a pretty young age, even back in the time when he was just about 2500. I think he just senses the harmony of pieces very well overall, including the knights.
Right. King f8, king f2, king e7, check.
Now he understands. Yeah.
Now he took, and basically, if you see here, he also doesn't exchange. He lets black exchange so that later on he can put his knight on d3, which again I think he understands that his knights need to both look at c5 square so that he can push with b4.
Yeah, absolutely.
G6, king e3 brings his king in, and then bishop c2. The knight comes
Making
up.
way for the d3.
I think what you said makes a lot of sense. Yeah, like just sensing the harm. I think Magnus is right up there when he senses this harmony. I think he showed that in the sixth game of his World Championship match in a completely super complex material balance. He could understand where to put his rook, knight, two pawns. Somewhat like that Arjun is showing here. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. This game is I think like a classic, which also reminds me of another interesting thing about Arjun. When I started interacting with him for the first time, he absolutely didn't know much of chess history at all. He didn't know many of the legendary players of the past, including I think a world champion. I don't remember. But even if it's a completely popular world champion like Botvinnik, I would first ask Arjun, have you heard of this person? Because I wouldn't assume that he knows them already. He just absolutely didn't know any of the top players, let alone have seen their games from the past. And this was a bit of an eye opener for me that someone can be so incredibly strong without studying the classics, which would have been something of a cardinal sin when I was growing up, not knowing them or not having studied their games. But Arjun, when I saw Arjun, I started questioning these old beliefs that hadn't been questioned probably in the past.
Did you study
And
them later, the classics?
I don't think so. I don't think so. At least not in a organized way, not in a conscious way, as far as I know. I think it just showed that it's not only the chess moves matter. only a knowledge of chess moves or what's happening in the board. I mean, it's not about the name behind the moves, it's not about the name behind the games, but just knowing the chess moves, the concepts, that is pretty much all that matters. Like how AlphaZero wouldn't have known any Fischer or Kasparov's games. It just played against itself on a chessboard, and it learned how to play chess.
Human AlphaZero. B4, and then he got his
So yeah,
king.
it was pretty clear that you had to play b4 and open up the way for the c pawn. And with knight g8, I think it became very clear, a very clear way. You didn't even have to calculate any checks. The king comes to d4, you take on b4, pawns on c5 and d5. And I think we are getting close to the 40th move around here, the time
Yeah.
control.
Yeah.
And white was already having some concrete win with d6 and c6, but yeah, he had a lot of time. He just took his time to calculate a concrete win, and I think he finished it off in a very smooth way.
Yeah, this was
Knight b6.
just no chance for Dominguez. Knight e7.
Yeah, knight e7, bishop b7, and now bishop d5. Yeah,
Yeah, king c5.
king c5 first.
And gives a check, and bishop c6. Yeah, this was check, king here, and he resigned. So beautiful game by Arjun, and I think just shows. And I think through this game we understood a bit more about his playing style.